All right, so we're going to take a break from parabolas for this lesson, and we are going to talk about circles. So standard form, or the equation of a circle, is as follows: parentheses x minus h parentheses squared plus parentheses y minus k parentheses squared equals r squared. So I know it looks really crazy, but actually circles are pretty straightforward, nothing too nuts. So on this one, your center of your circle is h comma k. If you notice, the h and k in the formula is minus on both of them, they're negatives, and here they're positives. So something you need to be aware of is whenever you are finding the center, what you're going to do the opposite of what is in the equation. So the opposite sign, I mean. So if this is a negative h, then this is a positive h, and then vice versa. Another thing I want you to notice is the radius. Right here it says r squared, and here it's r. So what do you have to do to get, what's the opposite of raising something to the second power? Well, that would be square rooting it. So you have to square root whatever this number is to get to that number. Okay, so let's just sketch a quick little graph. So I have, let's do parentheses x minus 2 parentheses squared plus parentheses y plus 1 parentheses squared equals 9. Okay, that's a standard form of a circle. Let's find the pieces. What is the center of this circle? Remember, it's the opposite sign. So your h would be positive 2, and the k would be negative 1. And your radius is the square root of 9, which is just 3. So you would go on this, and you would go over to 2, down to negative 1. And then whenever I draw these, this is kind of how I draw. I go 3 in all 4 directions, 3 away. So I go 3 to the right. Let's do 3 to the left, 3 up, and 3 down. And then I try to do my best to draw a circle. All right, so and that's kind of what circles. We're not going to do as much graphing in this video. That's the second video of this lesson, but let's go ahead and write the equation of the circle given the center and the radius. This is super straightforward. So we have hk, and our radius is that. So we're going to plug it in. So it's parentheses x minus h, so 2, squared plus parentheses y minus 5 squared equals 3 squared. Okay, I'm going to clean it up just a little bit. So it would be x minus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 9. Okay, so I do not want you to leave this part right here as 3 squared. Go ahead and square that out. Okay, let's do another one. So your center is at negative 3, 8, and your radius is 9. So this would be x minus negative 3 squared plus y minus 8 squared equals 9 squared. Okay, so the minus negative, I'm going to clean it up to make it positive 3. And then that y minus 8 section, I'm just going to drop down and clean up 9 squared, which is 81. And that is it. I know, it's nice to have a nice break over since we're not doing parabolas. Okay, let's talk about this one. There's a few different ways to write this one. You could write it as x minus 0 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 1 squared. So this, with the exception of that second power, would be okay on the 1. So whenever we're doing that, that would be okay. But another way you'll see this written is just x minus 0 is just x squared, because the parentheses wouldn't be doing anything at that point. So we could write it as this. This is kind of my preferred method, but if you left the first part as x minus 0, it would be okay. Okay, so if you see an equation like that, just know the x coordinate, the h, is 0. Okay, So now write the equation of the circle given the parent and the shifts. Okay, so let's talk about this graph. X squared plus y squared equals 9. So where is the center of this graph? Well, it is at 0, 0, right? Because like the last one, nothing's happening to the x or the y. There's no parentheses, so it's just 0, 0. What is this radius? Well, it's 3. So what would happen if you shifted that graph left 3 and up 2? Your new center, if you went left 3, that would be negative 3, and up 2 would be positive 2. Does that change the radius at all? No, it doesn't. It's just shifting it. So it's not like shrinking or dilating it or at all. So let's write the equation. It would be x minus negative 3 squared plus y minus 2 parentheses squared equals 3 squared. I'm going to go ahead and clean up those two pieces. So this would be x plus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 9. There you go. Okay, this one, I changed this problem. So if yours is not changed in your notes, write this one down. So looks like the ones that are on the homework, and I wanted to make sure you saw one of these. So let's talk about this graph as is. Before we're worried about shifting it right 2 down 8, what is the old center? Well, that would redo the opposite, so that would be negative 1, comma, negative 3. All right, and then the radius would be the square root of 64, which is 8. Okay, so I'm gonna, sometimes like on this, some people struggle with this, and that's okay. I'm just gonna sketch a little graph to kind of help. So this would be negative 1, so this is negative 3. There's a point right there. Okay, so that's the old graph. But now it's gonna be shifted right 2 down 8. So right 2 would be right here at 1. And then down 8, so if it's at negative 3, that would be at what? Negative 11. Okay, so that is your new center. So your new center is at 1, negative 11. Okay. So now the radius didn't change any, so let's plug it in. So I'm going to have x minus 1 squared plus, I'm going to speed it up, y plus 11 squared, because it's negative 11, so minus negative is plus, equals 8 to the second power, which is 64. Okay. These next two are really simple. They just want you to find the center and the radius. After that, it gets a little bit more fun. So the center of this, it would be negative 3, positive 3, and your radius would be the square root of 64, so that would be, 8. Easy. All right, so for the next one, it is a little different, but that's okay. So it looks like the y value has nothing happening to it, so that's just 0. And our x value is negative 8. So there's our center, and our radius is the square root of 121, which is 11. So there you go, easy. Now, here's where it gets a little, you're like, this lesson is way too easy, and you're right, it is. So now I had to throw a little curveball at you, so get ready. So now we have to, this is called conic form, and we have to switch it to standard form to be able to see what the center and the radius are. So the good news is we're going to use something that you've already learned how to do, and we're going to implement it for this too, and that is completing the square. Your favorite thing ever. So completing the square. All right, so remember the formula for when you complete the square. It is b divided by 2 squared. Okay, so keep an open mind when we're doing this. Just go slow. We're going to do a couple of them. So whenever you do this, first thing you need to do is rearrange it to where your x's and y's are together. So I'm going to have x squared plus 8x. And then, so I don't have to write it twice, I'm going to leave a plus blank. And then I'm going to have y squared minus 10y plus blank equals 8. And since I have 2 blanks on the left, I need to have 2 blanks on the right. So essentially, we are going to be completing the square twice. One for the x values, one for the y values. So let's just get after it. Let's do the the x values first. So my b for my x values, so I'm just talking about this portion right here, would be 8. So this is 8 divided by 2 squared, which is 4 squared, which gives me 16. So I'm going to put 16 in on both sides. And then I need to factor this. We'll just knock all the x's off at once. Remember the trick for completing this square? It's going to be x something parentheses squared. And how you find that something is you look at the number right here in this step before you raise it to the second power. So after you divide by 2, it's just your b divided by 2. Okay, since it's a positive 4, we're going to put that right there. So it's going to be plus 4. Okay, so now let's do our y's. Same thing. My y value, my b and my y's is negative 10. So negative 10 divided by 2 squared would be negative 5 squared, which is 25. So I'm going to add 25 here and here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and factor this. It would be, not x, we're doing y's now. So y something parentheses squared. So in this case, what is that something I put in there? Well, I put in negative 5. So negative 5 will go right there. So minus 5. And then let's go ahead, and another thing I need to do is drop this plus sign down in the middle because they are being added. And then go ahead and add all this stuff over on the right side. Okay, and I believe you get 49. So sweet. I think in the homework, this is all they want you to do is just write the equation. But since the directions on this side find the center, let's just go ahead and finish it off. So the center of this one would be what? Negative 4, positive 5. And your radius would be the square root of 49, which is 7. Okay, I know it looks crazy, but it's actually kind of fun. All right, same thing, similar problem, let's do it. So first, what do we need to do? What do we do first on the last one? Well, we just rewrote it. So put our x's together and put a blank plus your y's plus a blank equals 8 plus blank plus blank. Okay, and I do those blanks so I don't forget. They're not, you don't have to, but it's kind of a good practice so that way you don't forget either. So let's do it. We have our b value for the x's is negative 6 divided by 2 squared. So negative 3 squared, which would be 9. Okay, and then I factor it. That would be x minus 3 parentheses squared. Oh, see, I almost forgot to add the 9 over to the other side. All right, let's do the y's. So I have I forgot there's a 14y. Oops, okay. So anyway, we have 14 divided by 2 squared, which would be 7 squared, which is 49. So I'm going to add 49 there and there. So I have y, what am I going to put in that blank? A positive 7, because that's what's right there. Okay, and then let's go ahead. I'm going to put a plus, bring that plus sign and the equal sign down. Then I need to add those things over on the right side. Okay, and when you do that, you get 66. Okay, let's finish it off. What is our center? It's going to be 3, negative 7. And now what's your radius on this one? 66 is not a perfect square, so what do? Well, you just square root 66. That's it. Okay, so I know it's kind of weird, but that's your answer. All right, one last one. If you don't have this one, write it in your notes, find a blank spot somewhere. So here is this problem. It's a little different, and I wanted to show you what you need to do because you have a couple like this on your homework. So some things you're going to notice. The right side equals 0, okay? And then we also have an x squared term, but we don't have just a regular x term. But we do have two terms with y, one with y squared, one with y, so that's fine. So this is actually half the work. You're only going to have to complete the squares for the y's. But before we do that, the first thing I need to do is move this 9 over to get it out of there. So let's put it over the right side. And then I'm going to rewrite it as x squared. Don't need any blanks there because it's just x squared. Plus, let's do our y's. Y squared plus 10y plus blank equals -9 plus blank. Okay, so this would be, let's go ahead and factor it. I'm going to drop that x squared down, or I'm sorry, not factor, complete the square. So this would be 10 divided by 2 squared, which would be 5 squared, which is 25. So add 25 there and there. Now let's factor it. So this would be y plus 5, because of over on the right side, squared. Don't forget your exponent, it's important. And then add the right side, and I believe you get positive 16. That's a -9. Okay, so that's your equation. That's it, right? It's a lot faster when you only have to do one side. But now let's go ahead and say, what is our center? Well, for this one, it would be 0, -5, and our radius would be 4. All right, that is it for part 1 of circles. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.